Now, the same-sex marriage bill returns to the Commons today, and it looks set to worsen the recent tensions between David Cameron and some sections of his party. Many Conservative MPs are expected to oppose the measure in a series of free votes on the bill for couples in England and Wales. Yesterday, a letter from 34 former and current party chairmen warned the Prime Minister that the policy was driving voters over to UKIP. It was followed by a letter from more than 100 party activists backing the bill. Ivan Massow is a gay Tory activist who's hoping to stand as an MP. Morning.
Morning.
And Ben Harris-Quinney is chair of the Conservative think tank, the Bow Group. Good morning to you.
Morning.
So, Ben Harris-Quinney, is this issue sending you all swivel-eyed?
Well, it's probably fair to say that I am a bit mad and swivel-eyed, but I don't think a lot of people in the party appreciate that moniker. It is doing huge damage to the Conservative Party, and it's doing damage to the Conservative Party, I think, not just because of the issue whether people agree with same-sex marriage or not, but how it's been handled. This is poor legislation, and it's been forced on the electorate and on the Conservative Party in an undemocratic way.
So are you against equal marriage in principle?
Well, I don't know what you mean exactly by equal marriage, but I think we need to look very carefully about what the state's role in marriage is, and I would be supportive of something where the state engaged in something called civil union or civil marriage. I don't think it really matters from my point of view which one, and then religious marriage is separate to that, but civil marriage or civil union should be all that exists. There shouldn't be civil partnership as well, and that should be open to all people. Whatever their sexual orientation or whatever way they want to unionise with another person.
Ivan Massow, that's a compelling argument, isn't it?
Well, I don't think I'm disagreeing that much. I just think that given that there's gay marriage on the table at the moment, and we want to live in a fair and equal society without a government stopping the church from allowing two people to marry, or priests from allowing two people to marry just because of their sexuality, I just don't think the government should be able to do that, and that's what David Cameron's trying to push through. The reason why he's pushing this through is it's the right thing to do. It's just a fair and unhomophobic kind, new, contemporary stance that just needs to happen. And in a couple of years' time, when we look back on this, we'll just think it's as much nonsense as the age of consent debate was, or even the legalisation of homosexuality. It's just one of those awful things that people have latched onto to vent their, I hate to say it, but it is homophobia, and it needs to be dealt with at some point. There's never going to be a good time, and I'm kind of proud to be a member of a party that's prepared to push through something, even though it's causing such problems.
Is this homophobia, Ben Harris-Quinney?
No, in fact, I think that's an outrageous and an insulting suggestion to a lot of people that oppose this bill, including, indeed, the majority of Conservative members of Parliament who didn't vote for it. But in terms of why this is happening now, yes, of course it's important we look at what binds us together as a country, and how we can be more equal as a country and more inclusive as a country, and how we can take everyone with us as the Conservative Party in a national vision. But this is a democracy, and there are systems in that democracy, and one of those systems is when you're going to make major changes to this country, to the institutions that underpin this country, you need a mandate to do that, and you need to put that in your manifesto so people know exactly what you're intending to do when you get into Parliament. And not only was it not in the Conservative Party's manifesto, 2 days before the general election, David Cameron said publicly on Sky News that he wouldn't be redefining marriage. Now, quite frankly, that is a broken promise to the electorate, and it makes a hollow mockery of our democracy. And that is a very difficult position, I think, for a Conservative Prime Minister to be in, and that's very shameful. From my point of view as a member of the Conservative Party. And far from being a homophobe, I'm someone who's interested in policy and legislation. And this is bad policy, because we're now talking about amendments to the bill, we're now talking, which I think are necessary, but they should have been there from the outset. And we're also talking about pushing something through in an undemocratic way. And I think that's very dangerous, and I think that's why so many people are upset.
Well, you've both used the word pushing this through. Ivan Massow, you said David Cameron is pushing this through. Is there a sense that he is pushing it through against the will of his own supporters, his own voters, that there is a disconnect between the Tory leadership at the moment and the grassroots activists?
I don't think there's a disconnect between David Cameron and public opinion and the way this should... I think most people are pretty easy about gay marriage and probably find this debate quite boring and would just like it to go through and to be over with. You're always going to get... The Conservative Party is a broad church, and many of my friends oppose this, unfortunately, and I just have to... It is a sort of a vote or a decision of conscience in some respects, and... But I'm a Conservative. I love the Conservative Party. I love what we're doing economically. I love, I've been a member of the party for 35 years, but this aspect, this kind of clinging on to these kind of old values, does make it awkward sometimes to be a member of the Conservative Party. And I'd just be glad when this one's over and done with.
How much damage, finally, Ben Harris-Quinney, how much damage is this going to do, you think, to David Cameron personally?
Well, you can debate the figures around the polls and how much of the country is in favour or against, but what we do know is that since 2005, about half the members of the Conservative Party have left the Conservative Party. That's about 150,000 people. If things carry on in that current rate, there won't be a Conservative Party in 10 or 15 years' time. Equally, we're all very aware of the rise of UKIP and the fact that, according to a lot of polls and indeed according to a lot of election results, UKIP is now less than 10% away from the Conservative Party. Now, that's striking distance. It's not inconceivable that by 2015 UKIP could be very, very close to the Conservative Party in terms of percentage of the vote. Now, how damaging is that to David Cameron? Well, what it means is on his watch, essentially a new Conservative Party has risen up and taken the members and taken the votes from the original Conservative Party. And I think the reason for that is, if you're going to be a leader of the Conservative Party, you need a clear vision of conservatism for your party and a clear vision for the country of how that conservatism is going to take the country forward. And I don't think David Cameron has elucidated that properly.
OK, thank you. Ben Harris-Quinney from the Conservative think tank, the Bow Group, and Ivan Massow, who's a gay Tory activist. And interesting, talking about capitalising perhaps on the dissatisfaction amongst some Tory party members at the moment. An open letter from Nigel Farage in the Daily Telegraph today, urging people to use this as their opportunity to switch to UKIP. We'll talk more about that later. John Pienaar with us after 8 o'clock this morning. It's 4.